everybody, to another edition of Let's Do Lunch. My name is Ned Sherman. I'm the co-founder of Digital Media Wire, and I'm also Chief Business Affairs and Legal Officer at Skybound Entertainment. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today. We have a fantastic show. This is a Friday show. It's also our last show before we take a summer break and start preparing for our fall conferences and the fall Let's Do Lunch session. So you're lucky to be here in our last one of the season. We have some fantastic guests, but first let me invite you to introduce yourself. You can go to the bottom nav to the chat area and open it up, and make sure to select everyone and feel free to introduce yourself. You're welcome to drop in a LinkedIn link or whatever you'd like for people to connect. Also, if you have questions during the session today, please put them in the Q&A area just to the left of the chat, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. This session will run 45 minutes, as all our Let's Do Lunch sessions do. So we'll get started right away. And let me introduce our guests today. So I mentioned this is our Business of Music and Audio session on Fridays. And we have Jesse Corwin, who is co-founder and CMO of Slipstream. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Hey there, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Great to see you. Great to have you here. And as our moderator today, we have Seth Schackner. Seth, welcome. How are you?
Great to be here, Ned. Great to see you and Tinzer and your team.
I'll turn it over to you. Have a great show, guys.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. And hey, everyone. It's great to be back. It's been some time since we've done this. I've seen already some familiar names out there in the chat. So, as Ned said, just pop your names and your LinkedIn's, whatever you want to do in the chat there. And, Jesse and I will try to, pull some comments out. Obviously, you can use the Q&A for questions as well. And, these are music biz oriented conversations. So we'll dialogue for about half an hour back and forth, then I'll open it up for some Q&A, and we usually drop it off on the dot around 12:45, 12:50, just to give everyone's lunch back. But it's great to be here, and I'm very interested in this one today. Jesse and I had a chance to talk, and I'm a digital music exec and consultant. Sometimes I like to think I know lots about the business, and when Jesse and I talked Wednesday for the first time, I was like, holy man, I don't know too much about this space. It's a bit of a mind bender. So put some thought and also done some homework. And I feel like I'm on a little more solid ground than when we first chatted. So be a good one. But maybe, if you ask me, Jesse, a good way to start would be, just if you could, I don't know, talk a little bit about the strategy, a top level strategy about, what your strategy is all about and where you see yourself going with Slipstream broadly. And then we can dive into more details and backgrounds and, aspects of the business.
Sure, yeah. Thanks for setting the bar low. I appreciate that.
Softball down the plate, okay?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, as we talked about a couple of days ago, I think we've seen one of the biggest paradigm shifts in media that in the last 5 years that we've ever seen, right? Where the ability to create and distribute content has been democratized unlike any other time before. And so I think that unveils a whole range of opportunity. And so at Slipstream, we really see an opportunity to turn both creators and musicians into superstars by bridging those two worlds. I think to date, the focus has really been largely on providing more of like a 1.0 production music type tool for the community. But I think that there's an opportunity to evolve that conversation, to evolve the types of artists and musicians that want to interact and participate in this economy and ways to give shine to creators. And so at the highest level, I mean, that's our mission.
That's awesome. No, I think that's a very clear mission and a high bar. I mean, absolutely. So, just going back to like the idea of licensing, I mean, I'll do a tiny bit of landscaping for everyone here. And again, feel free, you guys, to pipe up. But I mean, and Jesse, feel free to weigh in or correct me, but we're talking about, if I can put a couple of just top level labels on it, just so people can understand the world of licensing, perhaps professional music, maybe distinct from what people would talk about in terms of like frontline or record labels or music publishers, right? I mean, I don't know if that's fair to say in your view, but maybe help the audience understand the landscape a little bit. There's entities out there like a Splice or a Songtradr or platforms like, and I see it almost looks curious just the question, but maybe help us understand where Slipstream fits into that, if that's even an accurate way to look at you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, my background, I was a musician myself, right? And so I was in bands in my 20s in New York City. Didn't get a record deal, came close, but was always looking for ways to market the music, market the band, and generate money. And so we were putting our music in TV shows and ads and started generating sync revenue that way, and built a company called Jingle Punks, which became the biggest independent production music library for television throughout the mid 2000s or 2010s, however you say that.
So whatever you call it.
I think what we prided ourselves on there was creating almost a musical middle class, right? Because I think like a lot of creative industries, it's sort of, there's a small percentage at the top, right? And then there's a very flat bottom. And so it's very, and not a huge middle. So it's tough to earn a living as a musician. It's tough to earn a living as a creator, right? So they're kind of symbiotic in that way. And I think in the last company we saw television and advertising as a way to create a licensing platform that allowed unknown independent musicians to make a living. And we were successful at that. I think with Slipstream, we see that idea evolve a bit, right? Where it's because now you have a situation where there's 60,000 tracks a day being uploaded to Spotify. There's the ability to create and distribute music has been democratized to such a degree that you're everywhere but nowhere, right? Because meaning anyone can get on Spotify. My kids see my old band on Spotify. They're like, "Oh my God, Dad, you made it." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's there," right? And so that I think becomes one sort of important element is like, as a musician, how am I able to market what I'm doing? But then also the revenue opportunity aspect is equally important. So I think where we fit in, I think, is almost like a platform that gives musicians entree into the world of creators, and which will help them market themselves and their music, but also give them a chance to earn revenue. And then on the other side, we're giving creators and streamers an opportunity to access amazing music.
Awesome. Yeah. So it's even like, if you just think about even the music, whatever architecture or ecosystem, it's even like kind of even predates, or if you will, it's even a more fundamental piece of it rather than just being a musician. It's music that creators create, a musician can pick up. I mean, somewhat similar to a publisher a bit, I guess, but it sounds like it's got a little bit of a different part of the landscape.
Yeah, I mean, we're like, that's sort of, we're not really a publisher, right? I mean, it's a platform, right? And so as a platform, in terms of like the kinds of music or the ways that we acquire that music, I think there's a couple of different ways that we do that, right? In some instances, we are acting as a publisher in that we have acquired catalogs, because that's our background. We know how to do that. So we've acquired the rights and acquired the masters. In other instances, we're doing partnerships where we only need to control a specific kind of right to protect our users, right? The content ID rights and the digital rights to that work. But we're not required to own it. We're not requiring exclusivity in that sense. You can go off and do your own thing. So and then there's other instances where it's partnerships with labels and sort of bigger artists. Where it's just us providing awesome music to our subscribers.
That's very interesting. I'm learning even more as we speak, just to continue the theme. But I mean, one of the things I spent some time on on the site signed up actually for, for a free account. I mean, you obviously have different types of free and premium accounts that I guess creators can use, but royalty-free music is something that came up to me, and I was wanted to get my arms around that a little bit. Is that kind of maybe just explain what that means and how that fits into the
Yeah.
business? Yeah.
I think that it's not my favorite term. I mean, I think there's certain sort of industry terms that exist and that you kind of have to use to communicate to the marketplace, but royalty free is a bit of a misnomer. I mean, it's royalty free in the sense that the music that is available on the site does not require the creator to share their AdSense revenue with that music creator, right? So there is no royalty being generated through the synchronization of that music to a video on a social media platform.
Okay.
However, we are putting, you still get your mechanical, royalties and your streaming royalties. And there will be a royalty generated by our site, which is a portion of subscription revenue that will be distributed pro rata based on downloads, right? So
Okay.
royalty free, I think, there's royalty free, there's copyright free. We like to say creator safe, because that's really what we're trying to provide here, a safety net for both video creators and live streamers, and a safety net for musicians as well. So yeah.
Got it. Okay, helping me. It's starting to keep asking you all these basic questions, but it's
No.
fascinating, and I hope people out there appreciate kind of digging in on this. But maybe just even to also, again, to step back for someone who's in the AAA leagues of trying to understand this, like, is it all about streaming, or do you are things like physical products or downloads or any other types of uses part of the business, or are you very focused on this one line?
I mean, in terms of like a metric of success for a musician?
Yeah,
Right?
or just in terms of maybe I don't know if that's the best question, but in terms of, usually I ask people like about rights and maybe start navigating around from there. But in terms of the scope you're operating, it's mostly about streaming, it sounds like, yeah?
No, I mean,
No? Okay.
it's not only streaming. I mean, I think, look, for us, the community that we're providing a service for are video creators and live streamers. So people who are making content at various levels across multiple social media platforms, and their desire is to monetize it. And I think that music isn't super interoperable in that each platform has their own set of licensing agreements with labels and publishers. They're not all the same. And just because you make, for example, you could go on TikTok and you're able to use catalog there, but then to transfer that to another platform could generate you being muted or receiving a copyright claim or a strike. And I think that for people that want to try and make a career out of being a creator on these platforms, and they're whether they're currently monetizing or they're aspiring to monetize, navigating that complexity of music rights is very daunting.
Yeah,
so
no, for anyone. Got it. No, that helps me
that,
a lot.
yeah, like
Yeah,
removing that friction for people where they know, oh, if I come to this site, there's awesome music, and I don't ever have to worry about getting a strike or a claim because they've already dealt with it. That's sort of,
no, it helps me immensely. And sorry if these are sort of doe-eyed questions, but in terms of like, I don't know, music publishers or or labels, are they at all, are there rights holders that come into the mix, or it's mostly about independent artists and independent creators that you're working with that are part of the service, or a little bit of both? Or
yeah, I mean, I think that it's both. I mean, I would say independent artists are probably going to be and are the main constituents. There's a lot of there's a lot of difficulty around and expense around dealing with label and published music. I think be a part of the creator economy is evolving. I think, if you saw the press around our fundraise, Sony Music led the Series A round. The fact that a big 3 label is investing in a company like ours, I think is indicative of the fact that they see, promise in this space. They understand that, music business has a history of being slow to evolve. Copyright law hadn't really evolved at all in 100 years. So I think for labels and publishers, it's going to take time, but I think that they're realizing that, the way that they police and interact with the creator community probably needs to change if they want to benefit the artists,
Yeah, I double down on what you're saying in terms of Slim. I think it's interesting. Like, we both were chatting before we got on at Sony at different times. And I know we've got a lot of colleagues on the call. Adam Zelinka's out there. And I think Karen Allen's out there Karen's a total expert with Twitch, and gaming, if you will. And, I think it's fair to say that and I don't want to sort of cover what you're doing from the label perspective, but I mean, publishing itself is an obscure thing for a lot of us. Like, I don't know many people that work in the center that really fully understand all the rights. And this also seems like a fantastic area, but also one that seems like it would be incremental if you were sitting Sony and Warner, I would think, because all these new creator platforms, I'm not sure what the interface between a Sony and a Twitch actually is. And I would think someone like you could provide an enormously helpful bridge, whether it's independent or major.
Yeah, I think that it's, the majors are cutting deals with the Twitches and the TikToks and the YouTubes of the world, right? They've exacted their pound of flesh, as they should, for the commercial artists. I think their interest in it, not to speak for them, but on one hand, there is sort of a more production music as utility aspect where they want to sort of be at the forefront of content creation, which I think is smart. But I think also, they see it as an opportunity to help market. Currently I'm sure, I don't know if you've seen all the artists like Halsey and Twigs, complaining about having their labels ask them to make TikToks, right? I think that just like the use of social media to market music is such a huge driver for people. And I think rather than trying to rely on it from like a high level influencer marketing perspective, they see an opportunity to let just put it in the hands of creators and let it become part of culture, instead of just trying to force it by paying someone to use it in one video.
Yeah, no, for sure. I hear you. I do some social media work with an app called Smule, which has been for 6 years. And, it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's a black or white area, but, I think with entities like TikTok out there, I don't even know what that means economically on an artist by artist basis. But you can just see when you're working with an artist, the question always comes up like, hey, man, are you going to give me a check for this? Or should I get shares in what you're doing, basically? And I'm like, no, it's about marketing. And it actually is. But I think it's a very legitimate thing. I also just wonder, like, if you're at a major and you're touching this area, I don't know if it's maybe from a reporting or payment standpoint, it gets into artist by artist. But I can't imagine they have the same level of expertise as a Slipstream does if you're actually dealing with some of these services yourself or some of the creators directly. Maybe I'm off, I don't know, but
yeah, I haven't honestly, we haven't dug that granularly into their psyche of how they view that.
Yeah.
I think that there's sort of maybe the way to look at it is untapped resource, right? There's just trends that people have seen that I think that they feel like they could take better advantage of. I think you may have seen, I don't know if you saw the report around mood music, right? And the fact that a tremendous amount of music is listened to that has nothing to do with commercial artists and sometimes doesn't even have vocals. You know what I mean? And so there's all these sort of pockets and niches of music that I think lend themselves to a creator economy and haven't been realized by a major label, and understandably so, right? Like that's not their core
Yeah,
business, so they invest
yeah,
in companies like ours to do it.
makes a lot of sense. And you also have things like, I don't know, Stingray, whatever, DMX that have sat out there for years just in the cable landscape that I also maybe don't see as having the same expertise with, with this stuff as well. Um, okay, so let me just sort of tilt it a little bit. So, I also think about things. Maybe it's completely different, but just maybe a little bit more landscaping. But you know, television, big brands, the interface between Madison Avenue and rights holders. Sometimes that's how I think about licensing. Is that sort of a different corner of the landscape as well? It sounds like, right? Or is that hitting your business? Or
Definitely, yeah. I mean, enterprise, not so much television at this point. I don't. For us, we're very like creator centric and artist centric in how we view the world and view our platform. So, if a creator of ours were to make a television show, that would be one thing. But in terms of courting the television industry, it's not something that is important to us at this point. But for enterprise and brands, that is an important aspect of what we do. And again, I think it becomes down to just making it easy for music to be used, right? I mean,
yeah,
you know, like people go to Spotify to listen to music. I would love for them to come to Slipstream to use music in their content, and I think for brands and for enterprise clients who operate at scale or want to leverage music in their content marketing, but then have the ability to use that content on any of their channels, our company provides a unique solution for them.
yeah. And guys out there, by the way, I'm seeing some introductions, but pop some comments and some questions at us. I don't see any yet, so I hope we're not boring you guys. So could come at us with a couple of good ones, okay? And we'll get to them in just a second once I finish blabbing on here. But also, Jesse, like, are a lot? I mean, is there? If you think about the overlap, I don't know, between creators and artists, are many of them both, or are they really different communities? Are you seeing like a little bit of everything on terms of your platform?
Well, right now, it's the majority of the people on the platform are video creators and streamers, and actually, uh, gaming and streaming is the dominant cohort, right? So, it's just, I think part of that is due to the fact that they've more acutely felt the pain in the last year because there was a lot of DMCA strikes handed down for people who had created content on Twitch. And people had to erase clips from the last 4 years, essentially
Mhm.
their livelihood, or risk being deplatformed. And so there's sort of this more pervasive fear and need in that community, which I think has lent itself to them adopting our service. In terms of the artists at this point, we're really white gloving that and sort of doing it on a selective basis. There's a part of our site where you can request an invite and you can submit your music. And then there's certain we're A&Ring artists and music that we think would fit the service. But it is in our roadmap to open up
Yeah.
a more consumer facing music side of the business that would allow anyone to submit.
Got it. Got it. And we could talk a little bit about the consumer side of your business in terms of pricing and plans, but I think, I mean, one of the things I have to ask just in terms of the artist economy, and we've had one question from at
I
least
see.
one from Philip Jock, but basically, maybe you could speak a little bit to the artist business model, how do folks get paid, what it looks like, and
Sure. Yeah. So it's really at this point, it's on a case by case basis, for lack of a better word. So in some instances, we are buying out tracks, right? That if that's a track, it's really up to the artist, right? There's a couple of different deal shapes that we offer. We will buy out tracks. If that's not of interest, we will, in exchange for the content ID rights and the ability to license it, to our creators, they get a percentage of subscription revenue that's prorated based on the number of downloads their music gets, and that's paid out on a quarterly basis. If it's new music they're creating and they want us to distribute that to DSPs, we can do that also, and split the streaming revenue from that. So that's typically how we're doing it for now, but I wouldn't say any of that's set in stone. I think we want to listen to the community and be transparent, and so that could all change. But I think for now, that's sort of how we view it, right?
Yeah. On the cohort side, I guess that was the word you used, but whether it's Twitch or, I mean, we don't have to name the specific communities. Obviously, TikTok is an enormous one, but how does compensation work for an artist or a creator? Is there a typical model yet, or is it all case by case? So if my music is up in someone's TikTok, or if somehow it's being used on Twitch, how do I get paid for that?
I mean, if you're through our service, it's the ways that if you're going through our service, it's the ways that I explain.
Subscription. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there, like, I don't know, can you break out of it or do special one-on-one payments, or it's kind of difficult as an individual creator, I guess, to do that? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I think I see someone in the Q&A asked, listed off a number of other of our competitors, right? And so, people, I think they all do it differently. I mean, Pretzel, I'm not part of their business, but from what I understand, right, they give a percentage of subscription revenue. Epidemic is more of a buyout library, so they're not giving you a royalty, but they're buying tracks out up front.
Yeah.
Monstercat, not really. I don't really know what their system is.
Right.
Stream Beats is by Harris Heller. He looks, to the most part, he's probably contracting people on Fiverr and probably other places where, again, it's a buyout.
Right.
But the question is, how do we differentiate from existing services, motivate streamers to pay? Great question. I think ultimately it comes down to having great music that you can't find anywhere else, right? And so that's one part of it. I think getting streamers to pay for the live stream aspect of what they do isn't really the goal. It's more to get people to pay when they want to create VODs and clips and distribute those off platform, or if they just want to protect themselves because they're concerned about live strikes being handed down at some point. The first and foremost thing is about having the best music, right, is really the key differentiator.
And by the way, anonymous, it'd be good if you feel comfortable identifying yourself. It's a great question. You've obviously done a lot of business planning for us. Thank you.
I mean, it brings up a good point, which is that it is it's becoming very saturated, right? And so I think I think the companies that are going to win, like I said, will have the best music, and I think ultimately, like for us, I think establishing a strong brand, as the CMO, that's important to me, right? I don't think that a lot of these Stream Beats maybe has the strongest brand of any of these, and that Harris is a trusted voice in that community. But I think for the most part, people view them as tools, right? And I don't think there's a ton of loyalty. So I think building a brand that has some meaning is also a goal of ours. Something that we're striving for.
For sure. It looks like there's obviously, I didn't realize there were all these active, whatever, competitors or players in the same space, but it looks like it's something where there's plenty of, I don't know how to put it, but market-based private sector activity. It isn't, sometimes when I think about publishing, there's certain aspects of it, or rights, I should say, that there might be an industry blanket, a performance license or a society that covers everything. But it looks like there's tons of already private practices happening in the market. So it's like regulation is kind of needed or something, I guess.
I mean, the fact that I think it shows you the sheer size of the creator economy, the fact that there's this many companies trying to service the music needs of that community. you know, and these companies that they listed are great examples.
Yeah.
And worthy competitors. Yeah. I
And
mean,
do any, like, there's a, I mean, again, a doe-eyed question, but just some of the DSPs that are out there, if you will, or just the big social communities, don't they have like clearance departments and people that somehow handle this, or they need solutions from the market to do it, basically?
I mean, I mean, I never say never. I mean, I think, you know, Spotify obviously has an interest in, um, you know, creators and supporting creators through their podcast network. I think they view podcasters as creators. They're also close with the Epidemic Sounds folks, you know, both being Swedish.
Yeah.
Well, my wife's Swedish, so shouldn't I get some special
You know, I don't know if I want to touch that, but whatever.
but yeah, I don't know if their core, you know, I think for them it's tricky, right? When they start trying to get in the middle of music rights and controlling those rights, I think
Yeah.
it may create some waves that affects their core business that maybe it's not
Yeah.
worth the squeeze for them in that sense.
But you know, out here in Hollywood, I mean, there's obviously tons of capital. In fact, so much that Wall Street's questioning just in, you know, the big video streamers that are here. You know, obviously Netflix, Prime, if you will, Paramount Plus, HBO. That's got to be a nice. I don't know if that's part of what you're delivering to some of the creators, but I would think that's got to be a nice opportunity financially to look at as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, those sort of distribution points aren't a focus for our community. I think the folks that are on our platform, they're really loyal and or enthusiastic about, you know, the social media platforms that exist, right? Like
Yeah.
Twitch and YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, you know, and I'm sure there'll be a new one that comes out. And I think that, you know, any platform that sort of allows an individual to become their own media business, you know, on their own, that's where we want to be, more so than like old media or, you know, the
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. There's so much money being spent on production and the amount of content that's being binged off.
Yeah, I mean, but that's like my last distilled in that, and there's sort of, it's like a different echelon of players and competitors, and I think we really want to be laser focused on individual creators.
Yeah. You guys, I'm going to ask a couple more questions here because we're getting towards, but you know, feel free to pipe up here with some more questions for Jesse and I. Okay, I see Philippe and one anonymous person, but got a lot of friends out there, smart people. So pop us some questions. So the Sony investment, that sounds extremely positive. Big feather in your cap. I mean, that's awesome. Maybe can you give us a little sense of what it's all about and where you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the folks over there are fantastic. We had some really interesting and fruitful conversations with them. And I think, like I said, you know, our goal is to get the best music for our creators, right? So who better to bring on as a partner than one of the major labels and publishers that can help be a conduit for amazing music. And then I think on the artist side, you know, we have the ability to upstream them into, you know, this major label ecosystem by virtue of being on our platform. So, you know, I think we looked at institutional money and venture money, and I think for us, it really felt like, you know, they were an amazing strategic partner given how we think we can differentiate from the existing incumbents and how we think, you know, we can benefit the people on our platform.
It makes a lot. It's an awesome feather in your cap. And I came from there, and I think Sony's been, just my personal opinion, I know there's been, you know, whatever, increasingly more investment. I think I see more of it on the Web3 kind of metaverse space, avatars, genies, whatever it might be, commercial alliances, than I hear about this space. But I think it's an awesome thing. Do you get the sense, is it more about the recorded music side of their business or the publishing side, or a little bit of both? You're just going to be a neutral part of the landscape where they help out? Or
yeah, I mean, you know, they're sort of letting us alone, you know, and there's not like a directive from on high about how to plug in, but I think it's our interest, which I think is shared by them, is what I stated before, right? Like, they want to find avenues to market their artists and repertoire. And then, they want to give us the ability, and they want the ability to look at what is getting downloaded and streamed and identify trends and identify artists that, they have an interest in.
It's super smart. When I started at Sony, it was at Jive Records, and we had some production music libraries out here. I did Newport, now ran them in LA. And, I don't know how to put it, but it was a robust, healthy business, but we never really touched it on the recorded music side. So, I mean, I think it must be a smart sign of the times, whether it's streaming or all these tides rising, that they are looking at it strategically, even if it's slow. It's smart stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, my last business was always sort of like, where we were doing production music and it was just background music for reality shows. I mean, we always wanted to be have a seat with the cool kids at the lunch table. But, I mean, we were quietly the redheaded stepchild in the corner who made a lot of money for the company, but wasn't necessarily thought of as being the trendsetter. I think part of the excitement for me personally is that, I can apply what I know from like the sync licensing and publishing background that I have, apply it to this sort of burgeoning media, but also be considered one of the cool kids, and get cool music. I mean, the amount of artists, both established and independent, who want to be a part of what we're doing is really exciting to see. We have T-Pain on our board, we have his in, we're talking to a number of hip hop artists and electronic artists who are very well known. And so I think that part of it is like, I never thought that would happen.
Yeah.
So we're doing something right.
That's awesome. No, it sounds like a nice fight. I can think of a lot of Timbaland, a lot of interest out there that probably be interested in it as well.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we're not getting that many questions. I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've answered a bunch. If you guys have any more, I guess it's a Friday afternoon on the East Coast already. It's kind of early here in LA. But Jesse, it's really impressive, and it's also intellectually really interesting stuff, and to get arms around it. Congrats on it, man. I think it's awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you doing your homework and asking the hard-hitting questions. And hopefully Philip and Anonymous got what they wanted.
It sounds like Anonymous has done a whole business plan there. So thank you, Anonymous. But seriously, thank you, Jesse. And looks like Ned's back with us here. Ned, I guess we're going to give a little bit of time back because we didn't get as many questions as we thought. But thank you very much.
It's a Friday on the verge of summer, kicking in a couple of weeks, right? And it's our last Let's Do Lunch. So guys, Jesse, Seth, really appreciate your time and appreciate the audience. Great questions and input today. Have a great summer break. We'll be back with Let's Do Lunch in September, and enjoy your weekend, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a
Thanks all. Thanks again.